Welcome back to my channel. I want to talk today about how Ben and I paid off $44,000 worth of debt since January. Keep in mind that that number does include our payments to our mortgage. If you take out our mortgage payments, then we have paid about $25,000 towards debt. Of that $25,000, there was probably about $5,000 popped up between hospital bills since we had baby number 4 in July. I do have a business degree. For some time I was kind of thinking that I would do accounting, and that was where I was wanting to go. I did a short internship with an accountant for a while, and I also did an internship with HR as well, and I was not as much of a fan of the accounting in real life as I was to HR type work. And so my intention with my degree, if things hadn't gone different, would have been to go into HR or some sort of business office. I really do like this sort of thing. I really like setting up a budget, having a budget, finding ways, different ways to pay off things, or different ways. Like crunching numbers has always kind of been my thing. I may not always have been the best at doing what the budget said, but I have always had a budget. In the last 9 years since Ben and I have been together, we just accumulated debt. We've bought a house, we've had 4 children, we've moved a handful of times across state, we've moved away from our family. There has been a lot of changes since we first met until now. In January, we had $55,000 in debt. That does not include the mortgage that we do have. This was a combination of credit cards, student loan, and a personal loan, as well as a car loan. Our student loan and personal loan got paid off fairly quickly at the beginning of the year. The vehicle that we had before was not going to be able to fit 6 people in it. Before, we had a Dodge Journey that we loved, but we were bringing baby number 4, and all of our children are 5 and under, and so everyone is in car seats, which makes it much harder to try to get 4 car seats in a vehicle. So we did have to get a Suburban in July. We found a really good deal on a used one. Our car payment actually stayed the same that we had before. It's the same, almost the same amount. It's off by like $3, and I actually think it's $3 cheaper. We were able to sell that vehicle, and then what we now owe on the Suburban is only $3,000 more than what we owed on the previous vehicle. So we did kind of add to our debt in that sense. We did have to get that vehicle and swap that out in the middle of kind of all this. How did we make this happen? First of all, Ben and I took a course through our church called I Was Broke, Now I'm Not by Joseph Sangl, and we read that book together. His book and course is very similar to Dave Ramsey's, and Dave Ramsey is very popular. He's kind of like the king of debt payoff in the debt payoff world. And then after we took that course, we both listened to Dave Ramsey's book, The Total Money Makeover. There's certain things that don't quite settle with me 100%, but just like this video, take whatever you can from something and leave whatever doesn't apply to you. And keep in mind that I'm not a professional, I'm not certified in accounting, but we have obviously been living it out. After going to the course at church and listening to Dave Ramsey's book, we kind of have just agreed on what steps we kind of have and what our financial goals are. Important part of this is communication. Whether it's just you or whether it's you and a partner, especially if it's a partner, make sure that you communicate and you're talking over your finances. You're making sure that you're holding each other accountable, because this is a process for both of you. and it's something you want to make sure that everyone is on the same page with. When we kind of sat down and decided that we wanted to tackle this, the first thing that Dave Ramsey recommends is to set aside $1,000 in an emergency fund. You want to make sure that you have some cushion money, because when you start to pay off your debts, it's inevitable that something will come up that you did not plan for. We had a little bit more than the recommended $1,000, and so we took some of that money out of savings to pay off some of the debts that we had. Step number 2 that Dave recommends is to start paying off all your consumer debt. This does not include your mortgage, but any debt that you have other than a house is consumer. It could be car payments, it could be phones, it could be credit cards, it could be student loans. Anything like that is going to be considered consumer debt. That is the stuff that you want to focus on. Baby step number 2 is where we are currently at. We're working on paying off the consumer debt that we have. Ben and I are Christian. We do believe and try to do what the Bible says, and in the Bible, scriptures talks about tithing your money. So tithing is number 1 priority when it comes to our finances. We believe that it is important to give the first 10% of your income back to our church. And I fully do believe that God is able to do more with my 90% than I would be able to do with 100% of it. Just an exercise showing that I'm obedient, that I'm listening to his word, that we want to do what the Bible tells us to do. God is the one who gave us the blessing of Ben's job, and so by giving him the first 10% of the money that he has given us, that he has been so graceful to bless us with, is to show that we are thankful for what God has given us. Another thing that we personally chose to do was to pause the 401k contribution that was coming out of every paycheck for Ben. We were previously doing a good chunk of his paycheck, more specifically because his employment matches up to 7% of employee contribution, and so we were doing a full match. So we were doing at least that. We were doing a little bit more previously. So we do have a chunk of money in 401k, and we decided that it was okay to pause it temporarily, and that has been something that has added extra to each check to help us as well. 10 tips that I have. These aren't in any specific order, but my first recommendation would be to get a hold of some sort of book. I personally recommend The Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey, or That I Was Broke, Now I'm Not by Joseph Sangl. Those are 2 that I have read, listened to, done the course on, and thoroughly enjoyed. They are very motivating and phrase things in a way that gives you a new perspective on paying off debt and finances in general, or at least give you things that you can discuss. Number 2 would be to make a list of all of your debts from smallest to largest. Everything that is a debt other than your mortgage. After you make a list of your debt, you want to sit down and create a budget. For Ben and I, it's fairly simple because he is salary and he gets paid twice a month. So his checks are always the same amount. So it's easier for me to budget for that just because it's the same dates every month and it's the same amount every check. So it doesn't really change from time to time, but there's other people whose budgets are gonna change a lot more. Take an average of the last 3, maybe 4 months, average it out and do that average that you make. Or you could lowball, look back the last 4 months, what your income was for those months, and take the lowest of that and budget for that. So there's a few different ways you could try to do it, but the most important thing is just that you set a budget and you may have to fine tune it over the first few months. Number 4 is to make sure that you have some sort of emergency fund set aside before you start. Like I said, something will happen that comes up that you are going to have to pay or take care of. Something will break, a car part will go out. We decided to take what was over $1,000 and put that towards our bills. Next step after this would be to start focusing on your debts. Start with your smallest and work your way to the biggest. The reason for this is because when you pay off one that's $100, regardless whatever the amount is, the lowest one, you're gonna feel so accomplished, like you just kicked butt with this whole entire thing, and you're gonna want to go kick more butt. And so the easier that you make that, the more endorphins and adrenaline you're gonna be able to release to keep you more motivated during your payoff process. Number 6, when you are writing your budget, know where your money is going. Look over what bills that you're paying every month. Call those places and make sure that you're getting the absolute best deal from everyone. Anything else that is a little adjustable and is not set in stone, we're able to get a lower quote on our car insurance. Number 7 is to see what subscriptions you are paying for every single month and what subscriptions you're actually using and which ones you're not. If you have a gym membership, if you pay for TV, satellite, internet, Netflix, Hulu, Disney, all these things that are going on, what memberships do you have, and cancel any of the ones that you're not using. There are ones that we have decided to keep, that we have talked over and made the decision that it's okay for us to spend the money on specific ones because we are truly using them. If you are able to add income to what you have, that is going to help this whole process go a lot faster. It really depends where you are, what season you're in, if that's something that you're able to do. If you've been at your job for a while, you could ask for a raise. And if they say no, then it doesn't really hurt anyone's feelings. You're right where you were in the first place. If it's something that is not paying very well, you could find a different job. There are options to temporarily make more money. You could add extra jobs, work extra jobs if you're able to, deliver pizza maybe on the weekends or your time off from your first job, work any overtime if you're able to work an hour or an extra shift. If you have a service that you're able to do, maybe you're able to mow lawns or shovel sidewalks seasonally, that would add some extra income. The season that Ben and I are currently in, this is not really a viable option for us. We have 4 children, all 5 and under. So it makes it complicated to add more to that right now, especially having a newborn, and I do have chronic illness, and so I need as much help as I can get. I'm not willing to give up the extra time that I have with him home. That's a really great option if you're in a spot where that's something that you could do. Something that we have done, we have gone around our house and we have looked at the things that we have and we have sold off a lot of things. Number 9 is kind of obvious. Stop spending money. It's going to be hard, especially if you're someone who is used to spending, but it is something that can improve over time. Maybe try to challenge yourself, go 3 days without spending, go 5 days without spending, go a week without spending. See if you can do it and make sure that you're holding your partner accountable, or talk to them if you want them to hold you accountable so that you're not spending that money. Number 10 would be to use cash wherever you're able. When you're using the cash, make sure you're not cutting yourself short, because that's not going to help you in the long run either. Sometimes if you don't set enough money aside, or if you go back to the previous month and you spent $300 on eating out, and you want to in the future, maybe you think that's ridiculous that you spent $300 on eating out, so you say, oh, I can do $50 of eating out. But when you're going from $300 to $50, that's not really being realistic. It's not being graceful with yourself and honest with yourself. Maybe at some point you could work down to that. But if you were at 300 in eating out in the previous month, then maybe you should try cutting back to 250 or 200 and try that and see how that goes. I make sure that I'm using cash for things that we struggle to stick to a budget on, and I know that when that's gone, then you don't spend any more than what you took out. The goal for us is to be debt free. That is what we're working our way towards. So at the end of 2019, we still have about $40,000 that we are trying to pay off. That includes 3 credit cards and our car. Our goal is to be free from our credit card debt in the next year. We owe about whatever that is we have left on credit cards. That is the amount that we are going to try to pay off in the next year. And then after we get those 3 paid off, then we can target our car. And I am so excited for the day that we no longer have credit cards. We have closed all of our credit cards. The only way I would recommend using a credit card is to always pay it off at the end of the month. We have learned the hard way that we do not do very good at that. And it is just something that we cannot do. This is just some advice, what has helped us, where we're at with it. We're still working on it. It's a work in progress. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be pretty. You're going to make mistakes. Some things will pop up when you don't expect them to. I hope you found something in here that you can take from this. I would love to do a budget video showing you how we budget. If you are new to this or want a different perspective or different idea on how to budget your money, then keep a lookout for that. If you subscribe, then you will see when that comes out, as well as any other videos that I post. Thanks for watching. I will see you next time. Bye.